Ever think about how Mom made those simple meals taste so good and left our bellies happily full? As cost of living pressures weighed heavily on our wallets each month, budget-friendly meals became essential. Let's find out Mom's favorite recipes for saving money. First on the list is my dad's ultimate favorite meal, delicious spaghetti and meatballs, without needing a fancy description. All that was needed was some ground beef, breadcrumbs, a couple of eggs, tomato sauce, vinegar, a dash of brown sugar, and the most important element, obviously, spaghetti. By the way, pasta was considered a staple in my household, and should be once again, as the world is your oyster when it comes to its endless possibilities. Undoubtedly, a true Italian delicacy, but many culinary experts would disagree since this dish has origins dating back to ancient Persia. Other nations include Sweden, China, and Greece. Nonetheless, it seems to still be favored by many, globally. Bulk cooking has increased in popularity, trending that Mom did know what she was talking about. Therefore, my next choice for affordability must be casseroles. And I mean, who does not love a good casserole? The variations of casseroles seem to span back to times we cannot even imagine. As it happens, casserole is a French word that means saucepan. It is one of the oldest methods of communal eating, dating back to 1708. On second thought, be honest. Throwing all that you can into one pot, steaming it for a couple of hours, and serving a hot and delicious meal that serves many can be anyone's first choice when it comes to budget friendliness. Who else agrees? Please don't tell me that my subconscious sentimental mind is the only one. Speaking of economics, the following mom-made specialty was homemade pasta sauce. Recently, I was quite shocked to see the huge amounts of jar-filled pasta sauces as my mom taught me the old-fashioned way to make it with the use of only a few ingredients. For example, the top components to make an awesome-tasting sauce consist mainly of the following: a couple of smushed-up red tomatoes, finely chopped onion, herbs, and spices. Now, bear in mind that I had two older brothers, so this sauce was a necessity, as their appetites seemed insatiable. Similarly, pasta sauce is closely associated with Italian cuisine. Although tomatoes were introduced to Italy in the 16th century, it wasn't until the 17th century that tomato-based sauces gained popularity, securing their place in culinary history. With its first mention in a cookbook compiled by a chef, L'Apiccio Moderno, in 1790. This brings me back to one important aspect: the value of family. On the other hand, without going on a nostalgic tangent, let's delve into yummy baked potatoes, this time with a twist. Note that this version I am about to discuss has now transformed itself into a popular fast food item. Despite that, it is easy to do at home. All you need is a well-done baked potato, then stuffed with some yummy treats that are budget-friendly as well, and if you are feeling adventurous, a splash or two of sour cream. Perfect. Anyhow, this may seem like a new spin-off to many families, but researchers have discovered that native South American cultures have been using it as a staple for thousands of years. Although their techniques are questionable at best for modern society, as they usually include things like a banana stuffed with rice. The best homemade meal, in my opinion, was lasagna. Nowadays, people enjoy this dish on laid-back Saturday afternoons. And to be honest, I agree. Leave it in the oven for an hour, and a cheesy-filled indulgence is born. These components include the basic kitchen must-haves, layers of lasagna sheets, pasta sauce, and some cheese, of course. It has met those expectations of the history books as well. Did you know that its origins are implanted in the backstories of ancient Greece? Yes, you heard me right. This was not an original Italian cuisine. Nevertheless, many dispute that the first record of such a recipe being written down dates back to Naples during the Middle Ages. But wherever it started, it's now seen as a go-to dish in any household, no matter the country. When it comes to budget, nothing screams out more than that of chicken and dumplings. The meal can be regarded as boring, but it's a great-tasting delicacy, especially during those cold winter months. Besides it being a great tummy filler, it is truly a great way to cook economically, as all you need to do for the chicken is boil it to the brim of shreds, either in some chicken stock. Next, boil together. As easy as this dish sounds, it is a true version of what family-oriented meals mean. It began as a mainstay in many homes during the Great Depression. Yet, other experts claim that this kind of eating originated when German immigrants first came to America, with the word dumpling translating to noodle in German. Many agree that this simple meal can be enjoyed anytime, anywhere. It boils down to one universal thing: sloppy joes. I, however, do acknowledge that this might not be a very refined one. For this mom-made specialty, all you need are the basics, usually in your pantry or freezer, such as ground beef, salt, garlic, onions, and buns. You could opt to throw everything in a slow cooker or take an alternative route that saves time, taking a potato masher and tenderizing the sloppiness. Then you take a bun, toast it nice and warm, and slap on the meat, and there you go, a meal in minutes. The original story behind this meal dates back to Iowa, where a cook dished up loose meat in between bread with some tomato sauce. This then became a quick favorite amongst many Americans up until today. Next, we have shepherd's pie, also known as cottage pie, a meal that has always lived up to its potential. Whichever way you know this dish, it was one of the many staple meals in my childhood, as leftovers were assured. So, you might be wondering what is needed to complete such a savory pie. Well, I'm about to astonish you, as you only need mashed potatoes, butter, garlic, or herbs, minced meat, and cheese. First off, I would like to point out that there is nothing wrong with taking shortcuts in cooking, referring to the fact that nowadays, pre-packaged cottage pie cook-in sauce is readily available. So go ahead and skip on time if that is your heart's content and dish up a wholesome meal. Furthermore, historical facts are rather compelling, as they date back to the 18th century, when this new dish was mainly served in a vast amount of regions throughout Ireland and the United Kingdom. Pasta is a staple in any home, as it can be prepared quickly and affordably. One great example is Fettuccine Alfredo. It was always a dish to die for. These budget-friendly recipes included pantry favorites: fettuccine pasta, 2 sticks of butter, cream, seasoning, and garlic. Frankly, it might not be a favorite health-conscious option. While many assume Fettuccine Alfredo originated in Italy, this is not entirely accurate. Many speculate about this theory that it was recorded to have originated in Rome in the 20th century. However, it was invented by a man, Alfredo di Lelio. It is now a renowned dish known by many versions and has been published hundreds of times in cookbooks since as early as 1933. And Viola, a legend, was born. Meals aren't limited to just meat. Mouth-watering vegetarian curries are a fantastic option as well. Yes, there are indeed a lot of people who believe this dish to be expensive regarding the high prices of fresh veggies these days. Yet, this can be disproved. Thus, I have found a method that is most definitely budget-wise, with the use of a pack of frozen mixed vegetables. Additionally, there is a misconception that this meal is rather spicy. But if used wisely and sparingly, the addition of the vital curry powders can be indicated to be a true winner. While many believe this dish originated in India, historians have shown that it also has roots in Britain, dating back to the time of British rule in India. Lots of people around the globe would debate about the true origin of this next meal, which was always one of many meals my mom, especially my grandmother, used to make. Nonetheless, let's dive headfirst into this delicious meal pantry-friendly chicken a la king. Weirdly enough, as a child, this meal seemed so fancy, yet it could be enjoyed anytime. All you would need are milk, flour, salt and pepper, green bell peppers, mushrooms, and chicken over a heaped spoon of rice. Coming back to the aforementioned origins of this dish, well, it is a widespread belief that it was first served to patrons of New York's Brighton Beach Hotel way back in the 1980s by its inventor, per se, E. Clark King II. Whichever way the cookie crumbles around its history, it's one of those meal options that, by the turn of the century, took flight worldwide. Recently, I learned about a new term: frugal meals. I thought back to one thing my mom used to make that could be seen in the same light. Well, rather befittingly, she used to make us her homemade pizza with the use of only a few pantry-stored items and fridge favorites. So, with this meal, You will need flour, salt, Italian herbs, tomato sauce, eggs, and water. Later, when the dough is all spread out, just add the toppings, such as sausages with some cheese. Historically speaking, it is believed that many natives from Naples sold similar flatbreads with toppings years before. Nevertheless, the legend goes that a baker by the name of Raffaele Esposito gained credit for this dish after making a pizza for King Umberto I and Queen Margherita in 1889. Next, when all else fails, when it came to the perfect side for any meal, my mom almost always turned to that yummy yet savory treat of cornbread. Not only is this a great indulgence just on its own, but a great addition to things such as ribs and a bowl of wholesome chili. Many pantry-stored items would quickly jiffy up this sweet bread, which mainly consisted of corn flour, baking powder, oil, and eggs. On the topic of its versatility, I fondly remember that my mom used to include whole sweet corn from cans into the batter. And when I say that it was a hit every time, it's not an understatement. Even though it's like a treat nowadays, it stemmed from extremely harsh times when it was introduced as a way to survive those first few harsh years of American settlers. The following digresses a little from Mom's favorite meals, as it is more meant for those sweet tooth moments. Especially suitable for brunch, nothing screams louder when it comes to budget-wise meals than French toast. Easily, this would be a go-to for any family when finances are rough, as a great breakfast change or just for a yummy snack once in a while. I think the popularity of this meal is rather understated, as it even progressed in a rather quick fashion to a very popular cuisine in many countries. With various versions available, in my opinion, the best was and still is the old-fashioned and traditional one, where all you need are eggs, bread, butter, and some syrup. The name of the dish is rather misleading, especially when you take into account that the French did not invent it. It was more an American favorite, who titled it this way, due to French immigrants who popularized the dish. It is believed that it stems back to ancient Rome. Before jumping into the next one, keep in mind that it might be the easiest one to date. Classically, this meal can also be categorized as the most wholesome and budget-friendly one, especially when month-end seemed so far away. So, without further reminiscing, it's chicken noodle soup. Best described as a one-pot meal, it bellows effortlessness and includes everything to be thrown into a slow cooker. Things you will need are the basics, such as broth, chicken, noodles, seasonings, and veggies. Another great reason this one ranks so high is the fact that it's great when cooking in bulk, frozen and warmed up later for some yummy lunchtime memories. Who else remembers this as the best way to warm up or have the flu? Additionally, I also believe that its spotlight is well-deserved, as its origins started over 10,000 years ago with the domestication of fowl in Asia. Who agrees that nothing feels more like home than Mom's macaroni and cheese? Nowadays, prepackaged mac and cheese seems to be the easiest, yet it's just as cheap and tasty to make at home using the staples in any pantry. Now, I know I have done this before, but yet another term of roux has crossed my path. It sounds super fancy and difficult, but it's not. It's a method whereby you make a thickening agent essential to any winning mac and cheese. All you need is 1 part butter and flour as the base of your meal. Then all you need is the mac and, yes, the cheese. And to think it's all thanks to Thomas Jefferson, of all people, who made this dish popular after a historical trip to France when he brought it back to America. However, it is speculated that this dish was indulged in way before then, in 1769. Reminiscing about one's childhood, it's important to take note that Granny had her own unique set of skills in the kitchen. Mine, in particular, points to that of her chicken pot pie, which until today, my brothers and I craved. When thinking about the perfect meal that describes comfort and budget-wise cooking, this one has stood the test of time. It encompasses things such as a buttery crust made by the use of puff pastry, chicken, and veggies. Now, going back to the term roux, it's once again an excellent example of the perfect way to make a creamy sauce for this pie's filling. Leftovers from this dish could easily be frozen and reheated. Interestingly enough, the roots of this dish stem back to when European settlers made it out of the necessity of leftovers. This then only later on became an iconic American comfort food. An essential dish in my childhood home that lived up to its full potential was that of our favorite lunchtime meal, Mom's ramen noodles and veggie combo. Dare I say, nowadays it seems rather controversial, but we used to use the package of seasoning that was included to make the best version we could of authentic Japanese cooking. All that was needed were the noodles, spice pack, some broth, and veggies. Thus, I can confidently say that ramen noodles can be enjoyed in their simplest form. While we thought it to be just noodles, I was surprised to see the dish's origins, and it seems to be firmly rooted at first in China and only later introduced to Japan. However, it only took on its popularity in 1859 when the Chinese ambassador to Japan served it to the Emperor of Japan. An old favorite recipe that has truly made its mark as a go-to meal is the fail-proof omelette. All you needed were eggs, cheese, and whatever you had in the fridge to throw into it. Mine was and still is that of bacon. Many even opt for some vegetarian options. Well, whichever filling suggestion you prefer, this long-forgotten mom-made recipe must be one to nurture as a genuine budget-friendly meal. Did you know that the word omelette is French? So it's befitting to know that its origins are cemented within French history as early as the 14th century. Well, there are so many versions of it that it's rather difficult to keep up, yet one stands out to be interesting and different. Japan, where it would be made into a rectangular shape to be later cut into pieces and served with dips. I've now reached the final, most beloved star of Mom's recipe book, Meatloaf. It is so popular that it has genuinely stood the test of time as a recipe that cannot be forgotten. Not only is it super easy to make, but it takes a handful of ingredients to complete, and best of all, it's ready within an hour. On the other hand, there are so many variants of this meal, but everyone always reverts to its original form that screams traditional. It requires minced beef and binding agents, which are then later battered to perfection, laid into a bread pan, and glazed for that perfect caramelized appearance. Regrettably, it seems that this dish might be extremely underappreciated, regardless of how deep its history lies. For example, many say that it never was an official all-American type of meal. Various scholars show that it has roots in many culinary cultures, for instance, Germans, Romans, and even medieval Europe. So let's wrap up our list of long-forgotten mom-made meals. Did we bring back any memories? If we did, like, subscribe, and let's keep those memories alive.